and welcome to today's webinar on call intelligence. My name is Brandon Doyle. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing here at RYNO Strategic Solutions, and we're super excited today to talk to you about call intelligence. Call intelligence is a new solution that we have spent a couple of years, a lot of time, money, resources, and a lot of brain power to bring additional value to help you, the contractor, grow your businesses. So we're super excited to show you not only how call intelligence works today, but some of the things that you can do with it to grow your business. Mike, if you want to jump ahead for us to the next slide, we want to make sure everyone can hear us today. So if you have any audio issues throughout today's webinar, go ahead and click the audio settings button in the lower left-hand side of your Zoom webinar panel. That'll give you the ability to troubleshoot, select the right audio source to make sure you can hear us. We also have reserved time at the end for a live Q&A session. We have our guest speakers hanging on with us today for that Q&A session, and we don't want you to forget your questions. We know this is a new product and a new solution, so I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions. And send us those questions using the Q&A button in your Zoom webinar panel as you think of them. No need to wait around like an elementary school in case you forget those questions. Send them over as you have them. We'll be sure to answer them in the Q&A. We're going to do a quick introduction to our guest speakers today, and then they are going to walk you through why we built call intelligence, how call intelligence works, but most importantly, how we and contractors across the country are using call intelligence to turn that data, those insights, that intelligence into true action, measurable action that drives your business forward. I'm your moderator today, like it or not. But I am joined by a couple of guests. The first guest I'd like to introduce to you is Mark Shuman, RYNO's Director of Product Management. Mark has been in the industry for over 17 years. And Mark, why don't you come on and say hello to the folks? I'm sure you can introduce yourself much better than I can.
Hey, everyone. I've been in the industry for a number of years, and what makes me particularly excited about this webinar is the opportunity to talk about the AI infusion, the ability to do things that we never could do before, just wasn't possible, candidly, until just very recently. I was actually at an AWS event, a big event at the end of last year, and we were going around, hundreds of folks from different industries, and no one was really as far along as we are and actually implementing AI, and so we're excited to talk about that today.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Excited to see what you have prepared for us. And our next guest speaker, a man who might not need as long of an introduction. You might have seen Mike Venidis' face in places like Service Titan's Pantheon Conference over the past few years, Home Service Freedom, Rilla Masters. Mike is an educational and digital marketing wizard. So together, M&M, as I like to call him, Mark and Mike, are going to take you through call intelligence. So Mike, thank you for joining us as well, and welcome to the webinar.
M&M, I dig it. Hey, thank you for the introduction, Brandon. Guys, I'm a big Alex Hormozi fan, and one thing he always says that I repeat over and over and over again is the work works on you more than you work on it. And I think it's a testament. What I'd really like to call out before we get into intelligence for our RYNO family on this call is 13 years, I think, back, when we started this thing, and I think I have a unique perspective to bring. So I was really excited to host this call with Mark and Brandon, because over the 13 years, I got to look at the home services from a different lens, right? I started, for those of you that don't know me personally or know my story, I started in reporting and analysis. I was a contracted call listener, and RYNO was always very, very intentional about making sure that we took credit for the right leads. And we would have contracted listeners listen to every call, and make sure that we were really looking at net new opportunities. But as things evolved, I would eventually shift. I would grow with the company. I started learning SEO and paid advertising, and I did the actual work, right? So I got involved with the strategies, that helped us become such a successful organization. And then I would move in and I would represent each of you directly. I would go into a client success role and to be on these monthly calls, looking at these reports and talking to you about your budgets, your goals, your revenue, your cost per leads, and just to really make sure that we were experiencing the growth that we take so much pride in. It allowed me to just look at the organization in so many different ways. And now I've been blessed for the last 3 years to do a lot of public speaking and try to give away the playbook because we want you guys to feel so genuinely cared about, on how to really take your digital marketing to the next level. But listen, over all the years, the thing that I really observed the most, specifically with reporting, okay, was that we have one particular problem. And I tried to simplify it with one word, and that problem is accountability. I've just reflected over all the years, and I think where we commonly have an issue is, the contractors don't know what the digital marketers know. The digital marketers don't know what the contractors know. And while we are specialized in home services and take pride in that, there are still some breakdowns in communication and language, and the goal was to figure out, how do we take reporting to the next level to overcome this barrier? Our vision of being a lead generator, we want to take that to the next level. Like, we don't want to just generate leads and say, well, you did or you didn't book them. That's a you problem. Our goal at RYNO is to see it all the way through and bridge that gap. And what we started to do is, how do we break down this plan to accomplish that? How do we bridge that gap? When we looked at reporting, I felt like the majority of the obstacles that I would always see popping up, in that communication breakdown, they were really narrowed into 3 particular categories. One, how clear is the reporting? Okay, is it easy to understand? Because each of you as leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners are juggling a million things. And we're just a small fraction of the entire picture. So how easy are we making this to consume and help you get the things you need to be able to make thoughtful decisions to take your business to where you want it to go? And most importantly, accuracy. We can throw all the numbers in the world, but if we don't trust them, they don't mean anything, right? Because these are very essential decisions that we need to make, and that's what makes digital marketing so powerful, is we can make decisions with data. And then the third piece of it, right, is the capability, right? The days of just handing you a report and saying, here's your cost per lead and how many leads you got. It was an insurance policy to make sure that you could hold us accountable. But how do we take this a step farther and make it actionable? Right? Chris and I will always say, don't talk about it, be about it. And our vision for intelligence and RYNO Tracks 2.0 and all the things that we're going to cover today, how do we get this to a place where we can hand you guys reporting that not only holds us accountable, but gives you actionable oriented abilities to make tactical decisions in your organization beyond just lead generation? How can we help you optimize your operations? How can we help you pinpoint challenges within the organization? And give you data that gives you facts and evidence to be able to go in and execute on an action plan. And I want to start off, before we get into it, by just giving you a high-level overview. For RYNO Tracks 2.0, what you're seeing here is a simple layout. And the only real thing I want to touch on in this slide, right, is it's a snapshot. What we're used to is, okay, how many impressions do we get on a website? How many leads did we get? Jobs completed? How much revenue is attributed? And it's very performance-based, right? What are the channels that we are investing in, and what specifically is generating what? It's essentially a pulse. And really what we figured out is it needs to be more than that, right? Because it's not just about performance and data, it's about whether or not we trust it. So over the years, because I've always been a skeptical guy, it was, okay, if I saw 372 leads from LSA, like, I want to really build trust that I can rely upon that number. And the goal for intelligence is to not only do that, but really cast a light on the capability of what data can do. Like, one, we need to make sure that a lead is actually a lead. So what you're seeing here is just a high level. We're going to get into this in detail, but I want to do it in an organized way that makes it, one, entertaining, but two, easier to consume. Like, I want to give you the how it works. Like, Mark is going to help me on the how, but I also want to talk about the why, and you're hearing a lot of the why as we speak, but let's talk about it in more detail so we can believe in it, be excited about it. Like, we want you to get the value that's coming from it. See, what you see here is just a general list, right? We have dates, times, phone numbers, very basic information, duration. These are things that you guys are used to. But we wanted to customize this and do it at a level that no other agency or digital marketing company is doing. So let's talk about how we're going to break it down. I will give you visual examples, but to begin, let's just structure how we got into our vision. One, we really just wanted to start by helping you guys understand the difference between unanswered and answered calls. We all know that we have a reactive buyer in our market, in our industry. The majority of them, we need to act quick. If we don't get there, get to the call, book it fast, do the job, we run the risk of losing the opportunity. So step one is like, we need to cast a light on what we missed. But we want to make sure that you can segregate what's actually missed versus when voicemails are actually left. And that'll make more sense when you understand what the capabilities are at a deeper level. And then obviously, more importantly, on the calls that we answered, what exactly are we going to do from an organizational standpoint? And we felt like the first three things we need to talk about, right, is one, is it business related? We need to understand if these calls are even related to the product to start, because we get a lot of things like spam calls, robodials, like things we don't actually want. And we should have a pulse on how much abuse is happening. Two, is it actually qualified, right? You heard me start by saying, like, we've always been passionate about, are we truly driving new business? And guys, I'm talking about, like, I don't, like, we should know about brand searches. Like, if you're doing great traditional marketing and you've got a solid brand and people are typing in your name, we love that. But we really need to focus on new growth, right? Because if we can bring you net new consumers, it compounds. If we can generate memberships and we can make sure we book and give them world-class service, right? So we need to place an emphasis on that too, right? What did we actually book and what did we not? We don't need to just have a pulse on how well marketing channels are performing. We need to understand what's happening after the call, which is what takes me to the answered calls. When we started looking at those three segments, if it's not business related, what are the common themes that we saw? One, like, how early were they hanging up? Did your team even have a fair shot at answering the phone? Because I don't think it's fair to say that you're missing 100 calls if a percentage of them weren't even, didn't even ring long enough for you to get to. Two, is it even a job inquiry, right? Like, it could be whether you do or don't do the work, but it could also be if somebody's simply just trying to line up an interview and see if you're hiring, right? We know recruitment has been a challenge. So having a pulse on how much of that is coming in through some of your external efforts could be valuable to you, right? Spam and robo, we talked about solicitation, wrong numbers. This is another big deal. Like, it happens a lot, especially in paid advertising when you have competitors that are targeting your brand name and consumers don't realize it. So there's special things that we can do with this data, that the CSMs will be able to guide you through. But the things that we really care about, right, is one, like, is it qualified or not, right? I want to know if it's new, but I also want to have pulse. Like, do I have an operational inefficiency where follow-up is required on every call, right? How often am I dealing with reschedules, right? Is a callback necessary? Did they cancel? Why? Are they out of the service area? Do we have an error where maybe we have campaigns that are potentially pulling leads from areas you don't want to do work in? All of these things are essential, right? Obviously, I want to know if people think we do a service that we don't. These are all things that we could look at. Rework as well, right? We want to know if you've got repeat customers, clients coming back, if we're doing more than one transaction. Listen, especially in a world where pay advertising is expensive, like, if we're going to get an expensive lead, we really need to keep a pulse on the average life cycle. How many transactions do they do? How much revenue comes from it? That way we can take a one step back, two steps forward approach. These are the types of tactical things, that we want to be able to offer and get into the weeds with our reporting system. Lastly, before I hand this to Mark, I want him to explain something, but the not booked situation is important. Like, we really do need to have the ability to look at every single not booked call quickly, easily, conveniently, and assess why didn't we book it? Because it gives us that action plan to be able to work with our CSR team to really make sure, like, what are we focusing on to improve the booking rate? It's the easiest way for us to create more revenue, and it's something that we can control, right, as operators. Mark, can you share a little bit with our audience about the actual intelligence, though? Because I know that this tool does more, right? Like, can you explain to them what happens, if we see trends that we maybe haven't set up yet, and how the system is designed to get smarter over time?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to just getting smarter, I like to think about this, even just comparing. Mike talked about how he got his start as a call listener. So we've had for a number of years had folks listening to every single call. You can imagine, when busy season happens or whenever it gets slow, it's not easy to just ramp those people up and down. And so the great thing about AI now doing the same analysis that was being done before is that it can be done significantly quicker. Things that used to take days and sometimes even weeks happens within minutes. Instantly scaling up, instantly scaling down, taking care of all of your calls quickly. It's also just more consistent. When you have an army, as Mike mentioned, an army of folks who are, listening to these calls, all of them, you can imagine there's going to just be some natural human variation from one person to the next, regardless of how well trained they are. People just think of things and analyze things differently. With AI, it's consistent. Every time, every call, whatever those rules are, they'll be followed consistently. And frankly, what we found doing a lot of analysis over the number of months, is that we're actually significantly more accurate than we ever could get with humans alone. And so not only, like I said, is it quicker, more consistent, more accurate, dispositioning and tagging of these calls that we've done before, but now we can do things that we literally never could do before. We're significantly better at the things we've done before, but now there's new capabilities, new insights. And so as Mike mentioned, a number of these things that we look up as standard, these are things that we are actually looking for, just like you might train a person to look for. What we found as well is that the AI can actually find things that we never even considered in the past. It will actually highlight, and you'll be able to see it, and I'll show you in just a minute, where it actually tags something new that it's not something we trained it to do, but it detected it and it fits within the category, maybe another new reason that it wasn't booked that you hadn't considered. And so being able to find those insights that literally never could be done before, continuing to learn is really some of the power of the AI.
Thank you so much for going into detail on that, because I think that's what's so neat, because it's not just your traditional AI, we've taken years and just over, this is like millions of phone calls and years of data that to teach it and train it. Like it understands our industry and like what we're trying to accomplish. And by the way, I was just trying to see if you guys paid attention on my typo here. All right. It was intentional. It's completely intentional.
And then actually, Mike, just to let you know one more thing about the AI I was just thinking of as you're saying that is that we actually looked, as you're talking about the millions of calls, we actually looked. We tried to find a solution out there. We wanted to buy something actually that we could just bring in-house and start using. And we tried lots of things, but none of them really hit the high bar that we have for accuracy and consistency, all those things. And so what we ended up doing is actually partnering with AWS to build a solution custom made for our industry. So very, very excited about it.
Yeah. I'm glad you just touched on that, because to be the best, right? Like we have to do the work. We have to set the standard. It can't just be a plug and play. So I appreciate you touching on that. Guys, I want to get into the visuals because I know that's the exciting piece. But the last thing I just want to touch on is the quality dimensions. I also want to break this down a layer deeper. You see, our vision is to look at the value of every individual lead. So if we start to get into qualified instances, I don't want to just tell you that it's new. I want to give you unmatched amount of detail. I want you to have that ability. I want you to be able to look, because it's not just going to relate to our campaigns. It's going to relate to anything that comes through the call line. So whether you're just focused on residential or if you're doing commercial as well, it's going to outline that. It's going to give you the service line. So for those of you that are doing, more than one particular trade, your ability now to look at cross-selling and upselling, you'll have these things, and you can select more than one, which is great too. So it allows you to understand, if we're doing multiple transactions for different trades, on the same consumer, and the type, right? We need you to have a pulse on what type of service is it? Because we all know as operators that we have better profit margins or greater value, for certain job types than others. And we even want to get as deep as the detail. Right? Because when you think of things about, how many systems you're moving, what brands, co-op dollars, right? the ability to really narrow down the particular item makes it, I think, easier for you to create case studies, to push certain narratives when you have that much access to that much data. And my favorite part of all is something that we've been just so passionate about, right? Is your lead attribution. It's stamped. Now, we use a last touch model, but the beauty of this is like we understand that we have to live in a world with field management software. We understand how essential Service Titan and other partners are to your organization. So this still works with that. It integrates with that. But the beautiful thing about it is in our system, it stamps it. So you never get, a muddied water, like a diluted experience where if it comes in through paid advertising and your CSRs are changing the attribution due to your operational workflow, you don't have to worry about these things anymore because in our world, they don't have the ability to modify the attribution. It keeps all of your marketing accurate and how it originally came in so that you can still have the adjustments and the changes in the field management software and have two different worlds where operations run smooth, but credibility is also clean. And this allows you to really make more thoughtful decisions based upon the performance of your digital marketing campaigns. It breaks it down. You saw it a little bit earlier when I gave you the high level overview. How much leads? What are we getting them for? How much revenue is associated, all by campaign and different channels that come through. So I want to pass it back to Mark for a minute because we're going to take you guys into a visual example. This is the good stuff. Appreciate you guys following along, you ladies following along, everybody. I want to give you a visual so you can start to look at this data in action because I find that it's far more entertaining when we go, hey, all these things, like I love what you're saying, but show it to me. Give me examples on how we can use it. So Mark, I want to pass the floor over to you to talk about some of the data that we're looking at in this screenshot so that we can start to give them the visual comparison to all of this talking we've been doing for the last 15 minutes.
Exactly. So this is a screenshot here of our Call Intelligence Insights dashboard. And so Call Intelligence Insights, the first thing you see is a call log. And the reason why we think this is important, as Mike showed at the beginning, is metrics are great, but sometimes you want to dive in and unpack some insights and figure out the why, what's actually going on behind the scenes. And so you certainly could go and listen to every call. We actually have the ability to listen to calls from here. We actually even let you look at the transcript of the call if you don't want to listen to it, you just want to do it. But I find the best thing, the greatest thing, make this really easy for you, is just at a glance, every single call, as Mike mentioned, you get the service line, the service type, the service detail. So in this case, we've got a plumber service on a toilet. The next one, you've got plumbing service, water line. And then even further down, I think there may have been an install, but I wanted to highlight the stuff that I mentioned before. When AI finds something that we didn't tell it to look for, this was a PHCE client, apparently, because everything is plumbing and HVAC. However, they've got some things about contract termination. So it didn't even actually talk about a service line or service type, but just at a glance, I could tell this one's someone wants a contract termination. So it's an interesting one. The other one further down talks about a permanent inspection. Another AI found something. We didn't tell it to look for permanent inspections, but that's the type of service they were looking for. And just at a glance, I can tell it's from an air conditioner.
So this is an example earlier when you say that the AI gets smarter, and even though we didn't necessarily pick these categories, it sees enough trends and data to start calling it out.
Yep, absolutely. So it'll actually detect that kind of stuff up front, and if we see something enough, that we want to make it a new standard, we can.
I love it.
But I love it because it makes it really easy just to see at a glance what is this call all about without having to listen to the whole thing. And on this next column, just to the right of that, is another feature I really like because, again, we're just trying to make your life easier as you're looking at this, and we call it the estimated job value. This is an AI estimate. And so basically what we're doing is the AI is looking at, given this type of service in the specific geography where, you do business, what would be the estimated value of that? And so this is just based on an AI's estimate. It's not precise, but it does give you, just at a quick glance, again, just to make it easier for you to figure out, if I want to spend a little bit more time on the high ticket items, I can see it at a glance. I know which ones I should probably pay a little more attention to based on what AI is kind of guesstimating is the value of the job for this type of call.
Yeah. And, one thing that I asked Mark, I said, hey, I want to talk about this particular section of the report. So I'm going to come back in here because I want to go to the sentiments. You see, over the last 13 years, when I talked about my career here, I know like one of the things that I felt like is the rule of three is powerful. It's simple and it allows us to be objective and tactical about like what we're trying to accomplish when it comes to strategy. And what I've always believed is that a successful business focuses on what I call the triad, right? Like for a true business to win, all three of these parties need to win, right? Like your customer needs to win, the business actually needs to win, and the employee needs to win. So we felt like it would be valuable for us to create a rating system for each of those areas of the organization, for you to have a pulse on what the AI is giving you. It's explaining to you, if we have challenges in some areas, right? So at this plumbing call down here, we can see here that there is some friction occurring about the particular service, right? So when they were discussing the drain and the sewer line, something on this call indicated that the consumer did not enjoy some of the information related to the service, right? And it also shows that the sentiment was lower. So it lines up perfectly, but it argues that the agent handled it relatively well. So it just gives you an example of how we can isolate these things. And let's get back to trust, because trust is a word that I use a lot here, I know, and I think it's super important for us to understand how that is created. All right. One, we need to be able to go as deep as we want. See, for me, I get that we have a limited amounts of time. So the capability and the simplicity of the reporting, like we talked about, is essential. But I do want you to have the ability to get access to information as much as you need to be able to trust it. Because authenticity is something that I'm passionate about. It's something that RYNO is passionate about. Right. And when you start to look at this, I think you'll be thoroughly impressed. See, we took the caller disposition and we broke it down. So everything you can think of at this point, and they're all segregated fields for a reason. We'll touch on that. But I want you to just pay attention to some of what you see in this screenshot, right? Like we'll focus over here in a minute. But the first thing that I want you to see, right, is you've got all of this information, right? Everything from the disposition, the categories, all the things that we've been discussing to the actual information related to the call. But when we talk about the triad, not only you're going to get brief summaries, like a lot of the meeting recorders that each of us are familiar with these days, like the sentiment breaks it down. So you can come in and look at the caller sentiment and say, why did we rate them a 3? We can give the rationale, and then we can go into improvements. So it gives you the cliff notes. It's mindful of your time and your limitations. Same thing for the agent and the service ratings as well. This is every single call. Your ability to go in, look at the rating, understand why it gave that rating, and then have an action plan on what we can do. That to me is essential. That's how trust is built. And the best part is if you see something that's alarming, that's what we're here to do, is continue to train it and improve it, because it goes smarter with time, right? So the other thing that I love is when we thought about the simplicity and the convenience, we started talking about the transcript, right? Like one, we want you to be able to listen to the file yourself. Like if you want to hear the audio file, get it. Sometimes it helps to hear the tonality, and some of those things that the CSRs are discussing on the call, how it's said, right? The emotion behind the word, the level of care. But it gives you the play too. So like if you want to read it because you don't have the time to listen to the whole thing, that's an option. And then we took it a step farther. Let's just talk about how you develop the trust. And you go, hey, like I trust this thing. The ratings are accurate. Like the suggestions are solid. Maybe you don't want to go through the details. Well, you have the ability, as Mark said earlier, to just hover over these things and you can see a brief summary. So you can get straight to the point without waiting for load times and like getting into files or pop-ups. Everything's lightning fast anyways. But we took every single thing into consideration that you can think about. But my favorite thing of them all, this is just me, all right, is the ability to filter and export. Because we all know how dangerous we can get in the world of Excel and when we parse data the right way for us to make strategic decisions. So what I want to do is just show you an actual example of what that looks like. This is the power of the filtering system. You have endless amounts. It would probably even initially be a little overwhelming, but the CSMs will be there to guide you through the way and show you how you can benefit from it. Like we'll have a lot of commonalities in how it's used. And in this particular example, I wanted to give you something that I know has been, a conversation in the industry. And that's, we know how expensive Google has gotten and paid. We know that. So it's very important that we capitalize on every paid opportunity we get. Like, we have to book it and we have to make the most of it to justify some of the cost due to the competition and the fact that it's the medium that fills the board, right? It's the source that really gives us an element of control. And I think it's powerful when you say, hey, I just want to look at every single PPC related call, only new customers. So we get rid of all the brand searches and all the fluff that we didn't book in this particular example. And I want you to give me a lower rating than, say, I think I set it to like 3. So now what I've done is I've narrowed all this data, hundreds of calls, to just look at one simple thing: my problems. So what you now see is everything narrowed down to bad sentiments with agent ratings lower than 3 associated with paid that did not book. All right. So what I just did is gave you the ability to export and look at every reason you didn't book it. To me, I would take Excel and I would find the trends. Like, if I see that 60% is associated, with a particular agent, it helps me to really just use some basic formulated data to generate an assessment and go, hey, Stephanie's issue here is like, and I guess it's not Stephanie in this case, right? It's really the time, the satisfy, getting them fast enough. But we've got some price shoppers. Like, maybe there's some coaching we can do with Michelle on how to counter that. Like, how do we respond to deal with that type of thing? This just gives you the factual evidence that you need to have an action plan on what we can do specifically to increase our booking rates, right? So I think that this is just one example, but I'm going to give it back to Mark, because what I had asked is, I said, like I'd love to really just focus on 3 particular things. You always hear me rambling about action, like that. The whole team says it here too, right? Because that's how we get better. Like, knowledge is only power if we apply. So Mark, what I'd love to do is pass this along to you, and I'd start to look at, I think we came up with 3 particular instances that you commonly heard when we were building it, and just give our audience some actual examples of like usage cases on how they can benefit from this.
Absolutely. So my 3, one of them is actually very similar to what Mike just talked about, where you're trying to look at paid. But in this case is, how do I drive more revenue? How do I actually make sure we're closing more of our leads that we get? And so I'm doing the same kind of start here, looking at qualified leads that didn't booked, but I actually wanted the big ticket ones. So I'm looking for specifically those that were going to be installs. And so when I did that, I come to the log here and I can see those filters applied. And now what's really great is it shows me a list, effectively a kind of to-do list. I can apply other filters and you'll get an opportunity to do that. But for me, I love this, because from this list, I can actually see the phone number of the customer. I can see, when their name, when they called. I can actually go call them back if I wanted to, right from here. And so I think this is just showing the power of it, but just also that it really is action oriented, just like Mike said, to drive more revenue. So I really like this one, and we've seen a lot of success with this so far. The next one is really about actually reducing cost. And so reducing cost, in my case, I looked up Rework. I wanted to see, where are we losing money because we're having to go back and fix something we didn't do it right the first time. And so it wasn't qualified, and why. And there's lots of reasons for each of these things. It'll tell you the reasons why. In this case, we were going to look specifically at Rework. So if we look at Rework, I can see exactly, not just that we had Rework, but I can see what was the service line. What was the service type, the individual service? So lots of water heaters, actually a few different things, water heaters, the furnace, and sewer line. We tend to have a lot of rework. And so obviously you can, from an operations team, go in and figure out like, why is this happening? And ideally you find out right away so you can reduce this from happening, and obviously lower your cost before it becomes a bigger problem. All right, this last one is about enhancing your brand. And I think we kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. There's lots of ways to do this, but I can imagine, you know, business leaders, CSM leaders, trying to think, how do we improve our brand? And there's lots of ways you can do it, but I'm just going to show you one, talking about the ratings again. I like the ratings a lot, because if we're getting agents that are just not performing well, we can find that out. So we can improve what the agents are doing, or it could be based on our service rating. Maybe it's something that's happening with our service as a whole that's tarnishing our brand. And so you can look at the ones, where am I doing really well and where am I doing really poorly, just by applying these filters. And then the same thing applies. I can figure out, where does that actually happen? Where, you know, what specific situation is causing it to give me those poor ratings? All right, so those are just 3 examples I just picked that I thought a lot of people I've heard from really find those valuable, and I suspect you can all use those right away. The next thing I want to talk about is a new feature that fits really well with all the things that we're talking about, and it's our heat map. And so you can see this here. We have all these metrics, we have all this data that we've shown you, the very, very fine, you know, granular data, but you can also look at it by day of the week and by hour of the day, and you can see the heat map highlighting, you know, lots of call volume on Monday. It also looks like around noon on Thursday. And interesting enough, that corresponds to a missed call rate that jumps up on Thursday at lunchtime. I don't know what happens at Thursday at lunchtime for this particular demo client, but something's happening that's making him miss many more calls than he normally would. And so this is just a kind of a glimpse of some of the insights that you can get from call intelligence that helps you to just significantly improve the operations of your business.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone again. Brandon again. Appreciate you guys walking us through call intelligence. That was some really exciting stuff. Everything from that caller sentiment. We've got a lot of questions already, so we've got some excited folks as well. But folks, this is a webinar that is exclusive to RYNO customers, right? And you can see here, there's probably a lot of different types of leaders on today's call with us. Everyone from sales leaders, operational leaders, CSR managers, business owners. There is a use case across every aspect of the business from call intelligence. It's just a matter of knowing what is available to you, surfacing those insights. So Mike, if you could jump ahead to the last slide before we open it up to questions here. Folks, again, this is a RYNO client exclusive webinar. We are very proud and excited to say that call intelligence is available right now in RYNO Tracks 2.0. Now, we know some of you on today's call may be already set up and operating out of RYNO Tracks 2.0. Some of you may not be in our queue to be deployed. We are offering a 30-day free trial to everyone on today's webinar as a thank you for joining us. And again, that 30 days starts now. Now through the end of May, call intelligence is available to you. So if you visit portal.rynotracks.com, and you can see here in the screenshot over on the left side of your screen, once you log in, click on your dashboards, and then down below on the call intelligence insights, down there at the bottom that Mike is circling. Thank you, Mike. That's where you can access everything that Mike and Mark walked you through today. So log in now. We encourage you to dive in, play around with it, see how it works, and start using it today. Lastly, before we open it up to questions, talk to your CSM. Call intelligence is not just limited to tracked phone lines that RYNO manages or has set up for you for your digital marketing campaigns. If you have other marketing initiatives, campaigns, strategies, investments, and that generate a lot of phone calls, we can track those too and surface those insights from those tracked phone lines as well. So if you're interested in maybe adding some more phone lines to track and gain insights from, talk to your CSM. They'll help you get those set up for you. But again, RYNO call intelligence is available within RYNO Tracks 2.0 today. So log in now and start using it. With that, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. Mike, Mark, I'm going to do my best to try to organize some of these into similar questions as well. But we'll go ahead and start running through the hit list. Mark, we've got a couple folks asking about the AI and how it works, right? So I'm going to direct these couple of questions to you, Mark. Number one, can you talk to us a little bit? We had a couple questions about how that estimated job value is being calculated. Can you just cover that quickly again on how we're arriving at that number there?
Yeah, good question. So we're using AI to, based on the knowledge that it has and some inputs that we're giving it. So essentially, we're giving it two pieces of data. We're saying this is what the job that's being discussed on the call, the service line, service type, all that stuff that we talked about, and then we give it, where is this located? Because we know pricing is slightly different from one market to another. So given the location, the type of service, it's giving it a good rough estimate to give you a better idea. We do, and we've considered and are looking at using your own price book maybe in the future, but today it's using kind of an AI estimate based on the market for the type of service.
Well, you actually just touched on Diana. I'm gonna try to pronounce your last name correctly. Don't hold it against me if I mispronounce it. Diana Holtzclaw was asking about estimated job value and if we were able to tap into price book. So it sounds like that might be a roadmap item in the future.
Yeah. It's something we're considering, but we wanted something that was widely applicable for everybody, and this gives us a really good number and a good starting spot.
Mark, another question for you. An anonymous attendee has some questions about the call duration. They're specifically wondering if the duration during the IVR, during the phone tree, when someone's hearing, this call is recorded, yada, 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 is that included in the total call duration, or are we removing that from the call duration and only looking at live dialogue?
Yeah, it's the full call. So we have the full call duration. We do, and we actually have talked about this, and maybe I'll just probably repeat myself a number of times when I say, we wanted to get this out as fast as we could to everybody. It's a lot of value today. It's wonderful, but certainly we want to continue to increase the capabilities over time. So something that we've talked about actually is that, where you can see how much actual talk time, maybe even talk time per person, how much from the agent, how much from the customer calling in. We have the data. It's just a matter of doing some calculations and fun math. So it's not too difficult. I think it's something that you'll probably see before too long.
Awesome. Mike, I'm going to kick this one over to you since I know you talked for quite a while, but then you got a nice little break. So I think it's time we pull you back in here. Amanda Odell. Hey, Amanda, it's nice to hear from you again. Long time since we've talked. Amanda Odell's wondering, she heard us mention qualified leads and new customers a couple of times. Mike, could you just clarify the definition of qualified leads? And does that only look at new customer within call intelligence? Or is there a way to segment out new versus existing customer qualified leads?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely placing an emphasis on what is new versus what is not, but you'll be able to look at all jobs, like whether they're new or not, right? Because if you heard earlier, it was very important to me that we start paying attention to the average lifetime value of the people we work with, right? Like, I get it. We're in an industry where we might only transact so many times, but like we need to be a true partnership. We need to really have a pulse on like, how well are you doing on your memberships and how often are you out there and how many calls are happening per account? Like, so long story short, yes, you'll have the ability to look at any service item that you're doing that is not new and still be able to parse and segment that out too. Because at the end of the day, we know like you care about revenue, we care about revenue. That's what really makes you grow. But we do need to have a pulse on us as an agency. Like our team needs to be held accountable on how many actual new opportunities are being driven. Good question.
Yeah, and then the kind of the technical definition for a qualified lead that we're using primarily, it's two things. Number one is the person calling in looking for products and service that you offer. Number one, and number two is, are they within your service area? So if those things are true, then we consider it a qualified lead.
Thank you. Sorry, it was just kind of new question popped in right as you wrapped that up, Mark. So I got a little distracted. Mark, how does the AI handle PCI compliance? Meaning if a caller is sharing credit card information or some sort of payment or bank information, how are we adhering to those compliance guidelines?
Yeah, that's an important question. So we actually it's redacted actually before it ever gets to the AI, so that does not get processed. It's not going to show up in the transcript. It's not something that is in the recording even that you'll hear, because it gets redacted before it hits the pipeline.
So let's say, Mark, someone's listening to a call recording. I've listened to a couple of calls where we had some, or not we, but there was an upset customer, maybe some cursing, a couple of F-bombs maybe dropped on the phone, probably a low caller sentiment rating. And what I heard was kind of like a
Right.
long
That's
kind
exactly
of
what
redacted.
happens.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Do we have the ability to set up real-time alerts or automation rules to notify when specific conditions are met? This is a question from Scott McIlvain. Hope I pronounced that right. Like a service cancellation, missed booking, unanswered call, etc.
Well, I didn't want to give too much of our roadmap away, but that is something that we do, and maybe we'll have a webinar just for that particular feature. There's a lot that we're working on right now that definitely accomplishes that goal.
Awesome. What about other CRMs, Mike and Mark? Do we plan on being able to connect to external CRMs? Wade Coley is asking specifically about HubSpot, but I would imagine there's some folks over there, not working on Service Titan. There's a million FSMs to Mike Venidis' point, and then a lot of other CRMs out there as well.
Yeah, I think we'd have to get some more details, candidly, to understand exactly what that means to connect. There's lots of definitions of that. The good news is call intelligence. It works with phone lines, right? It's really independent of the CRM. This is purely, what's happening on phones. And so it works literally with anybody. And so, in terms of connecting to individual CRMs, we do have products and opportunity to do that. But I'd have to get a little more details on specifically what they're looking for in integration.
Awesome. Folks, I don't see too many other questions funneling in. It looks like we've kind of slowed down. So we've still got 70 people in our audience right now. So if you have any other questions, 69, I jinxed it. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them over our way. We'll hang out for just a couple more minutes. But again, appreciate you joining our webinar call today as well. Mike, if you could do me a favor, could you just pull up the screen share again and jump to that last slide just so folks could see where they can access call intelligence and the link to RYNO tracks, just in case they don't have that bookmarked or anything for us. Here as we wrap up. Oh, we got one more question. So it looks like this question from Vernon might be our final one, which is, can we set our own value by call type? So kind of talking about that estimated AI job value again, Mark. Can we set our own value by call type?
Not today, but certainly it's something that we can look at. I think we want this to be as robust as possible. So certainly, I think there's going to be more improvements coming there. But today, it's just an AI estimate.
Thank you, Mark. Wade had another question as well. He's asking for the benefit of everyone in attendance today, will call intelligence be an add-on service after the free 30 days? Wade and everyone in attendance, we want to give it away for 30 days because we truly believe in the value of it. So yes, it ultimately will be. Ultimately, call intelligence is replacing our, as we phase out our legacy or former call tracking solution. So everyone, all RYNO clients, once they're live in RYNO tracks, will have some form of call intelligence. Some of the coaching insights and stuff is available for an add-on. But again, we want to be able to prove the value to you. We want you to use it and see it for yourselves. So try it out. Log into that portal.RYNO tracks. Go head on over to Call Intelligence Insights. Dig around. See what you can find. Start coaching your team. And if you want to add more track lines, if you're finding value in call intelligence, and we know you will, talk to your client success manager. They'll help get all those non-marketing track lines from other investments set up as well.
And I'll just add to that. I mean, Wade, I think it's important to call out that, the real vision and the goal is you'll always be able to hold us accountable. Like, we want to offer a level of reporting that allows you to hold us as an agency accountable. The add-on is really the level of like the action capabilities and, the level of detail, just because there's so much that goes into it. So I just want to be explicitly clear that like the add-on piece is really the action-oriented additional the components that we touched on today. You'll still have the ability to hold us accountable, look at like typical lead generation and things of that nature.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you everyone in attendance today. We're going to go ahead and put a wrap on today's webinar. We had a couple other questions come in throughout the webinar about webinar recordings. Yes, anyone who registered for today's webinar, whether they were able to make it or you're sitting here in attendance today, will receive the recording, including the Q&A session from today's webinar. You'll get that in the next couple of days. We got to get it processed, uploaded, all those fun things that you don't care about. You just want the recording. So we'll get that sent out in the next couple of days along with some key insights for you. And you are welcome to share that with any stakeholders within your organization who might not have been able to make it. And again, if they did register but weren't able to attend, they will also receive a link to that recording as well. Mark, Mike, I want to thank you two for your time. That was a lot of hard work that went into this webinar, so we appreciate it. A lot of hard work that went into building call intelligence. And I think that's ultimately what we're most excited about. So thank you all for your time. Thank you everyone on today's webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day.